Hey, Parco.
Hey, Parco.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Hey Parco, the mostly true adventures of two recovering Gen X Valley girls. I'm Samantha.
And I'm Ann, and we're the Parcos. And today we're going to discuss It's a Miracle We're Still Alive.
Part 2.
I survived being a Catholic schoolgirl riding the city bus.
How did you survive that?
I really learned to be very cognizant about my surroundings. I cannot tell you how many men masturbate in the bus to school.
Really?
Yes. Oh, horrible. But I will also say the bus was where I learned not to gamble.
Okay.
So I had worked at a donut shop and got fired because I actually charged a cop for donuts because they didn't tell me that you never charge a cop for donuts.
And they fired you for that. That's ridiculous.
Yes. I think they probably weren't happy with my level, but that was the reason he gave me. So anyway, I got my $40 paycheck. And my friend was like, oh, you know what? I got some money. You got some money. Let's go to a nice restaurant and be like adults. So I was taking the bus up to Ventura Boulevard to go to some Italian place. And before I got on the bus, and there was a man in a pork pie hat with these little cups and a little ball.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
And so I won the first dollar.
Of course you did.
And by the time I got off the bus, I was completely broke.
Oh, no.
Tears rolling down my face, telling my girlfriend that I no longer had money because I gambled it all.
Oh.
And she's like, please tell me it wasn't the shell game. I said there weren't any shells. There were just cup and a ball.
Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah, but you know what?
Really
I will tell you this. I don't gamble. I've been to Vegas. I will literally take $2 of nickels, and that's all I will spend. I won't spend any more.
Right.
Because I just, I'm just not a gambler. I'm a risk taker, but I'm not a gambler.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the bus.
Yeah.
I had my own little adventure with the bus once. Mm-hmm. Well, I was a little bit younger than what you're describing. I was more like 13, 14 years old. And I'd spent the weekend at my cousin's house. And it was like early Sunday morning. I had to get home because, of course, Monday's school. And so I was going to take the bus home on my own. And I was sitting on the bus bench. And this beautiful Sunday morning. And this truck, like a white panel truck, comes by. And I see this guy, specifically, lean to look at me. He's driving the truck by himself, but he's, leaning to make sure he can, see me. Mm-hmm. And I saw him do that, and it was kind of weird, but, whatever. Mm-hmm. I mean,
right.
It's L.A.
Right.
Next thing I know, there's a voice behind me asking me for the time. Mm. And it was him in his truck. So there was a parking lot behind the bus bench. So I tell him the time, and I'm kind of watching him. It's kind of weird, but he pulls away, and I think, okay, that's that. Now, it could be my imagination playing tricks on me, but in my memory, he looks kind of like the drawing of the Unabomber.
Oh.
Or kind of weird, the way Weird Al looked in the 80s, that kind of curly hair and mustache combination, white guy with curly hair and mustache.
Al.
I hope not.
I hope not. No, I don't ever want to say that. I love Weird Al. I do.
So my bus comes, I go on the bus, don't think about him anymore. It was a long bus trip from one end of the valley, the San Fernando Valley, to the other. And it was maybe 2 hours or something when you factor in bus stops. So I finally get to my stop. I get off the bus. It pulls away. And who's sitting right there but Mr. White Panel Truck Guy?
No!
Yeah. So
No.
I just booked it across the street. It was a big, busy street. He couldn't like follow me easily. Ducked into an apartment building, went through this like cut through, made it to my apartment and locked the door. And I was, like I said, I was about 13, 14 years old when that happened. But I mean, I can't even imagine. So what did he do? Did he like follow the bus and stop with each stop?
Yes.
How could he be there right when I got off
Because
the bus?
he followed the bus. Because he was creepy.
You, my Missy dear girl.
Yes. Yes.
I recall you and I, a bit later, let's say we were probably around 19, 20 years old. We were out, I think it was Club Lingerie. Mm-hmm. Friends of ours were playing, we're in a band and we were playing. And we were dancing all night long. It was just one of those nights where it was great music and we were dancing all night long. Mm-hmm. And so then, it's time to leave. You and I go out. We're heading towards your VW Bug.
Spot.
Spot. And this guy comes running after us and he catches up as we're waiting to cross the street. And he had this whole story about how he'd been watching us dance and we were very natural dancers and blah, 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 blah. And then suddenly says to you that he'd really like to photograph you.
No.
I was wearing, as you may recall, as I usually did in those days, a black bolero hat with a wide brim.
Right.
And he's like, I can't really see your face. And he started to lift up my hat and I just snatched it back down. And that's when he backed away a bit. And he's just like, okay, he gave you his business card. He's like, well, why don't you call me? I'd really like to photograph you. And as we know, there are multiple serial killers who use that as their MO. Who would give out cards to women, get them to come pose for them, and then,
I was walking across Ventura Boulevard at Van Nuys and Ventura, and this man follows me and gives me his check from Lloyd's of London Bank and said that my phone number is on this check. I have no business cards. I would like to photograph you.
So were you supposed to trust him because it's Lloyd's of London or something? Like, did he think, oh, Americans love everything British?
Obviously, I never called him. I mean, it's just so weird. Like, I feel so sorry for the women who fall prey to this.
Yeah, no, I mean, let's face it. I mean, there's a little bit of common sense we've employed in our lives, but most of the reason we're still alive is just luck. It's just
absolutely
luck,
absolutely.
Because we've done stupid things too. I'm not going to tell the public about stupid things that I've done.
And I too will never go public with the stupid things that I did that could have killed me, could have killed me, and probably other people as well. Yeah.
But we really lived through what's considered like the golden age of the serial killer. And so I looked this up just because I was like, I'm not imagining it, right? It really was crazy in that time. So there's this criminology professor at a university who keeps a database of confirmed serial murderers starting from 1900. Mm-hmm. And by his count, based on like newspaper clippings and books and everything, there were only a dozen or so serial killers before 1960 in the U.S. Right. And they count about 19 in the 60s, 119 in the 70s, 200 in the 80s, and then it drops down to 141 in the 90s and only 61 in the 2000s. So we're not imagining it.
God.
Our era of the hillside strangler and the night stalker and all that's, we were living in a dangerous area at a dangerous time for people exactly our gender and age.
Yep. I know that you once lived in Manhattan.
Yep.
And that you were working in the World Trade Center.
Indeed, I was. 6 years of my life. Yeah, I worked in the World Trade Center. That is a true miracle that I survived.
Yes.
Which is, so I was on the 27th floor of Tower 1 of the World Trade Center. It's 1993, February 1993. And there was a big boom and the building shook, and the electricity went out. And I looked out the window, and all I could see was smoke, like down below, but you really couldn't tell where it was coming from. And no alarms went off, and no announcements, nothing like that to sort of guide one as to what was happening or what to expect. So I opened the office door, and in the hall, people were starting to crowd into the stairwell. So I thought, well, okay, maybe this is what I should be doing too. I actually managed a small sales office, and that day it was just me and one of the sales guys. And so I just said to him, hey, I'm leaving. The electricity was gone anyway. You couldn't work. The phones were out. Nothing was working. I grabbed my coat and my scarf and my bag and went out the door and into the stairwell with, thousands of other people. And it was like body to body squished and moving, and the smoke was actually coming up through the stairwell. Oh. So I used my scarf to wrap around my head and face, and you couldn't really see anyway, so I just kept my eyes closed for most of the time and just, walked down the stairs.
27 flights.
Yeah. And there was, at one point, like this guy came from above me, and he was screaming, and he was like surfing the crowd. He was in a total, panic, which, it's really hard to resist that kind of panic when it's on top of you.
Right. Right.
But I just stayed calm, and I was breathing really shallow. And maybe after we were down like 15 floors or so, there was actually a firefighter there who said, you guys are doing the right thing, keep going, go down and get out of the building. And that was really the first outside authority of any kind that said that we weren't walking into the fire and to our certain demise. We really didn't know. It's just you don't want to be on a high floor of a building when it's potentially on fire. Right. So I made it outside, and the exterior of the World Trade Center in those days, the old World Trade Center, was completely like reflective. It was like mirrored building material and windows. So it was entirely reflective. And I remember when I got out onto the street, I took my scarf, down. It was cold. It was February. And I saw my reflection in the building, and my whole face was black from the smoke and soot. And that was that was sort of like the moment when I realized, something has happened. Something sort of big and scary has happened. Mm-hmm. And of course, this was the first bombing of the World Trade Center, when it was a van full of explosives that was detonated in the parking area. Right. It was very close to where all the essential services of the building were located. So that's why there were no alarms or announcements or anything like that, because basically they'd blown it up. They'd blown up the safety devices. And also because the World Trade Center was part of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, they had special rules that they got to follow. They shouldn't have been able to. And the stairwells actually were like chimneys for the fire that was in the parking structure. So, yeah, that's one of the things I'm luckiest to have survived and to have been able to get out of, really with no harm, to my person. Right. Other than just being freaked out.
I'm so glad you survived.
Oh, hon.
I can't imagine my life without you. It'd be so sad.
Oh, Parco.
It'd be so sad and empty.
But you've survived some hairy situations yourself in the early 90s.
Yeah. In the early 90s, I had to quit the job that I was working at to get away from a stalker. This man was a very, very, very bizarre bad man. And the place that I had originally worked at was a hospital. I had a former coworker who didn't like me for whatever reason, and she gave my medical record to the stalker.
Jeez.
So can
I just ask you something? Did HIPAA exist at that time?
HIPAA did not exist at that time.
So there was no law that would have... Wow.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
So I was now working on Miracle Mile, Wilshire Boulevard, at a very big advertising agency.
Yes.
And
one of the biggest.
One of the biggest advertising agencies. And I I had another former coworker tell me what this woman had done. Like, they called me immediately.
Yeah.
Because this, and someday I'll tell you the story of the stalker, but there's something more than the stalker here that I want to get to.
Okay.
So I call down to the receptionist when I find out that he has my medical record and now knows where I'm working. And I said to her, I said, this gentleman, he looks like this and his name is this. And if he comes walking in, you just tell me that my flowers have arrived. And she's like, okay, your flowers have arrived.
Oh.
Now,
What?
Okay, yes.
So he wasted no time.
He wasted
the second
no
he
time.
got that information, he started heading towards you.
When I worked at the hospital, I had to have security at my desk anytime I went to the bathroom because he had detailed exactly how he was going to kill me to several coworkers.
To several coworkers.
Several coworkers.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And the deal was that he had some kind of fantasy of romance with you, right?
Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, all I ever did was say hello. So because of the things that he had said and how weird everything was going, I did carry a gun. I took a gun class. I am a good shot. I don't carry a gun anymore. But at that point in my life, he was such a scary, scary force that I carried a gun.
Right.
He comes to the building. I'm freaking out. My husband at the time comes and the building supervisor comes. They go find this guy and they push him down the stairs. The cops come, see him down the stairs and said, that was a really good idea. Your wife should come down to the station first thing tomorrow morning and get a restraining order. So I go down the next day, which is one day before the Rodney King riots.
Oh my God. What? Oh my God.
One day before the Rodney King riots and one day before our house closes in escrow and we move out of Hollywood and go to the Valley.
Yeah.
Yeah, big, all sorts of, I mean,
everything at the same time.
I go big, man. I go big. So I go to the police station and I'm shaken up because he's found me. He's going to kill me. It's going to be, and they have no record. They have no police report. They have no record. And I said, but Officer so-and-so said to come first thing in the morning.
Right.
So I get, and the guy looks at him like, Officer so-and-so has never said anything. So something happened. Supposedly the cops wrote him some kind of misdemeanor ticket or something and got his address. And they told me, we have his address, come down first thing in the morning and we'll get you started on a restraining order. Well, that never materialized.
Wow.
So I was absolutely freaked out. Went to work the next day, which was the Rodney King riots. And I was working on the 18th floor and looking out, realizing just how close South Central Los Angeles is to Wilshire, to where I was.
Yeah.
I mean, you could see the
Not
fires ever. I'm like, oh my God, that's crazy. And so I'm like, I think this is going to get nuts. I'm hungry because, and I need sustenance. So I call the deli that's like 2 doors down and I'm like, I want to order a tuna sandwich to go. I'll be over there as soon as possible. Yeah, hurry up because we're going to close early. So I go downstairs to go to the deli to pick up my tuna sandwich and I see truck after truck after truck with people with lots of guns. Lots and lots of guns. And I walk in there. Next thing I know, the plate glass window is shot out. I hit the floor. I do the army shimmy across the floor. and they're like, tuna fish sandwich. I'm like, yeah, I'm going back to the office, and I shimmy and he's like, you could get off the floor now. I don't think they can't shoot the window out. I'm like, bullets. I'm running. I get up.
You just shout bullets and run.
Bullets. So I go? And I'm running back as fast as possible. And I'm like, do I go up all 18 flights? No, because I could get stuck in in a stairwell with somebody bad. I don't know. I'm thinking all sorts of things because, I have a stalker, right? But just remember that just happened the day before.
The day before?
Yes, the day before. So I'm pressing the little elevator button, just like, all of those, panicky movies, and elevator comes. Thank God I don't get stuck in it because you used to get stuck in the elevator all the time. I get upstairs. I have one bite of my tuna sandwich. Bite of my tuna sandwich. And over the intercom, gunmen are in the building. Barricade your doors now. And what does my boss do? I know Annie carries a gun. Ah! Everybody behind her, and he's like, you point at me. What? I was standing like Charlie's Angels. And all the men are behind me.
Why were they behind you? What were you supposed to do? Create some sort of magical shield with your gun?
Yes,
going to keep them all safe?
Exactly.
And they think you're going to save them from gunmen.
From gunmen with semi-automatic weapons and AK-47s, because there were a lot of AK-47s on the street. That it was crazy. It was crazy. Yeah. So we're all almost peeing in our pants. We're all so scared. Yeah. And so then about 45 minutes later, gunmen have left the building. Get in your cars now. Leave now. Yeah. So I had a coworker who would have to pass Florence and Normandy just to get home. I said, you're not going home tonight. You're coming with me. We're going to the valley. We're going to my mom's house. Yeah. My son was in daycare right off of Sunset Boulevard. So I get to the daycare. My daycare lady is totally freaked out because there's bullets whizzing everywhere. I put my son inside my shirt to try to protect him from bullets. So I get him in the car seat, and my girlfriend she was from Indiana. She was like totally freaked out. I mean, I was freaked out too. But do you remember the club? Do you remember that thing that went across the steering wheel?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So it had two prongs, right? You had one little thingy that hooked onto one side, and then you had the two prongs and you'd lock it.
Right, you put it on your steering wheel so your car doesn't get stolen.
I said to my girlfriend, if anybody comes, you take those two prongs and you poke them in the eye. Thank God I knew all the back roads. I did not get on the freeway. I took all the back roads back to the valley, and and it was crazy. It's actually amazing. I'm still alive.
It's a miracle. We're still alive.
It is a miracle we're still alive. It is a miracle. Hey, Parco?
Yeah.
I love you. I'm glad you're alive.
I'm really glad you're still alive, too.
So do you have hair-raising survival stories of your own, listeners? We'd love to hear about them. You can contact us on our website, heyparco.com, where you'll also find links to our Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook pages, and also images and info related to this and other Hey Parco episodes. Thanks for listening. See you next time.